So today we're going to build a Flask authentication application just to see how we can set up a system through within Flask where we can register, log in, and log out from a user account. My name is Mohammed.
And my name is George, and essentially, as Mohammed, pointed out, I mean, basically, we'll be going through, this simple authentication application in Flask, and I'll let Mohammed take over.
All right. So again, like the previous video, we're going to leverage ChatGPT and use AI-driven development. With ChatGPT, it doesn't give you the exact answers. There are going to be a lot of issues within the ChatGPT codes, and we need to correct them. And I think that's a great thing because identifying those problems and solving them, that's the best way to learn. Other than just finding exact solutions. So before we move on to that particular aspect of our video, we're going to first focus on creating a simple structure for a Flask application. So a Flask application has like at minimum, if we go to the bare minimum, because I don't think we're going to focus on the Flask framework today, we're just going to focus on building the authentication feature. But like you can understand how simple and easy it is to build a Flask application. We just need one Python file called app.py, and then we need one folder called templates that has all of your HTML files within that, and that's it. Like the app py file would contain your models, would contain your backend logic, would contain your roots, your database. All of it wouldn't be within this single file. I mean, obviously, when you're building more complicated Flask applications, at that point you might need to divide that into different aspects. For example, you could initiate the Flask application within under init.py, so on and so forth. But that's a topic for another video. So now that we have a simple structure sorted out, um, we can basically go to ChatGPT and ask it to write a simple authentication um, logic for a Flask application, including login, dashboard, logout, and register pages. So we'll write that down.
Perfect,
And
perfect, Mohammed. And I just want to jump in and just kind of delineate what Flask is versus like for example Django. Um, Flash is just basically a simple framework, right? It's a lightweight framework, um, for building mainly microservices. So if you want to build like something very small that gets to the point without, a whole lot of complexities, etc., you want to use Flash. But then, there's another, for example, in this case, we're coding with the Python language, right? Programming language. In the case of Django, right, there's a lot more under the hood there and a lot more of a learning curve. It's not too bad, but it's not as straightforward as Flash, right? So I tend to use Flash if I want to kind of spin something up really quickly, get it working, get a proof of concept, etc. And then I tend to migrate to Django once I kind of see that everything is working as expected. Go ahead, Mohammed. Thank you.
all right. So while we are seeing ChatGPT construct the complete application, we're going to go back to our VS Code and build a simple virtual environment for us to work with. So let me see. Just give me a second. I think we need to troubleshoot the virtual environment. I think I already troubleshooted this issue before. So we're just going to go back and use that. All right, I think we have the virtual environment built, and now we can,
And do me a favor.
start our.
Do me a favor, real quick, Mohammed. I just want to verify that. Can we do what language are we using? Is it Ubuntu? Go back.
This is
Ubuntu,
Linux.
Linux. Do a ls dash l real quick. Ls dash l. Let's see. Good. Okay. Perfect.
All right, now we're within the virtual environment, so we can start, installing the dependencies we need. And again, all of that would be what ChatGPT would sort out for us. So for us, we just need to go there and yeah, so we need to install all of these dependencies first, copy them, and pip install them within the virtual environment. That's being installed. Yeah, this is again a simple structure for a Flask application. Now we need to copy paste this application.py code, paste it within the app.py here. And I'll just go step by step through this code just to make sure that you understand what's happening where. And yeah, before that, let's just quickly go over what else ChatGPT wants us to do. All right, so it's constructed simple templates for dashboard. So yeah, you can follow all of these instructions, and we're going to do exactly that.
And just keep in mind, as I said at the beginning of the video, essentially, leveraging Flask, it's going to be a lot more straightforward. If you were to implement the same, copy paste type of deal using Django, you'll probably run into more issues because it's a lot more complexity there. Thanks, Mohammed.
And uh, there are going to be a lot of issues with the you know Flask application as well, but they're very simple to identify and resolve. Like with Django, there's a lot of complexity in identifying exactly where the issue, the code is raising an issue within the Django ecosystem. With Flask, it's very simple. You have just a single file, you have like templates, and even if you go for more complex forms of Flask applications, they're still very, very simple compared to a Django application. Copy paste uh, the um, the HTML templates. Like for HTML, it's never an issue with Flask. Like you can easily leverage that. Just copy paste all of these. It's not going to pose an issue.
Yeah, because HTML is more just you know, um, a language, that, more of a front end language, and namely the back end languages are the ones that will, kind of cause conflicts because there are a lot of environmental things that you got to take under consideration as well.
Exactly. Oh, I think yep, yep. Just give me a second. I think I've like you need to keep an eye. Like this is something an important thing to keep in mind because like I've misspelled dashboard within the file name, but in the entire code base that ChatGPT spun up, it's everywhere that file has the proper spelling for dashboard. So if you make a mistake, if that mistake is pointed towards a single area, then correct that single point of mistake instead of the entire code base. But like spelling mistakes are like very, very annoying bugs if you don't identify them. So like that's something to keep in mind when when programming in general, basically. So now we need a logout page as well.
And while that generates it, I really like this particular format because this gives the viewer the ability to kind of see this stuff being built from scratch, kind of demystifying it. I'm kind of the opinion, never obfuscate. Just you know kind of show exactly what's going on under the hood. A lot of times, what I've seen, in my years of software development experience is that you know developers tend to stick to what works anyway, right? So, you know, in my opinion, get it working first, and after that, then kind of put the bells and whistles on there. Go ahead, Mama. Sorry.
So yeah, so now we just need to quickly go over this code that ChatGPT generated. Like there aren't going to be many issues, but there's still going to be issues that the issues that are going to be raised when we actually run this application. So first, we just go over what libraries we're importing. We're importing Flask. Obviously, that is the main library for the Flask application, from which we're importing the Flask object, the render template function, redirect function, URL for function, and the Flash function. Then there's the Flask SQL Alchemy library. So basically, databases, there are two types of databases. We're going to work with SQL databases mainly. And what SQL databases are, they're relation databases. I'm not going to go too deep into exactly what relational databases are, but for relational databases, that's the SQL language. They have very different commands. Like they have complete individual commands that we use to work with SQL language. So the problem in most cases would be you'll probably need to learn how to work with SQL languages, but thanks to a lot of programmers out there who had the same issue, they built something called an ORM, which is basically an
Yeah.
abstraction layer for every framework, where you can just use Python in this case, for example, the language that you're using, to create a database simply based on the models that you construct, right? All the models that we've constructed below are leveraging the SQL Alchemy ORM to set up structures for us to build a SQL database.